do you do?
Welcome to 192 Books, and welcome Duane Michals. We're so glad to have Duane back in celebration of his newest book, of a not as new series, such a beautiful series. I have so many questions about how this book came to be. Hopefully we can hear about that tonight. It's published by Enitharmon. Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Enitharmon. They're a lovely publisher in London, which is also special for us because we rarely get anything from across the pond. So this is such a treat. Thank you so much for being with us. And books are of course for sale, and hopefully Duane will stick around and sign some afterward.
Well, I wanted to tell you about something interesting I'm going to do. I was walking home the other day, and on the corner is an expensive restaurant where I live, and parked at the corner was the biggest Rolls Royce I had ever seen. It was so huge I couldn't believe it, and there was a man and driver sitting there, and I figured that the guy, and the owner must have been inside the cafe having his lunch. So he drives to a lunch in a $500,000 car, and you know he didn't bring. This is like I'm really talking. I should be up. Do you have a lazy Susan? Anyway, so I thought I was so outraged that that car could seat a whole family quite comfortably, and so it was very annoying. And then I thought somebody should pee on this car, and I thought, well, that's a very good idea, but I didn't have to pee, which is unusual because anybody 86 usually has to pee all the time, like right now. Oops, did I say that? So then what happened was I thought, well, so I went home, and now I'm going to do a little series that's called Duane Pees on a Rolls Royce. And I just don't know if anybody would have, I'll bring it up, does anybody who have a Rolls Royce? Harmony crowd, joint bookstore. So that's the thing. The thing is that if anybody knows where I could rent a Rolls Royce, it would probably cost, like, don't you think, like $10,000 an hour to rent a Rolls Royce? No? Oh, you've rented one?
No, I haven't. But I don't think they're that much.
Oh, whatever it is. I need to
if you put a wedding dress on.
That's not so far-fetched as you might think. But anyway. It says see red. It just caught my eye. So I should talk about this book. In 1964, I fell in love with Atche. We only necked, but it was nevertheless love. And I'd never seen anything like that. And there weren't many Atche books around. It was rather unknown at that time. And being yet a novice as a photographer still, I was thrilled by him. And there's a guy named Becker. You ever heard of Becker? He did a wonderful movie on Atche, which was very thrilling. And so I decided that I would do a project on Atche. If that's Atche, I'm not here. Once you get your scent, you just can't get away. But anyway, so what happened was I thought I'll do this exercise. It was really an exercise, and then I would get up every morning on a Sunday. I decided to photograph New York empty because then I wanted to see the environment. I wanted to see the rooms. And the minute there was a person in the room, you looked at the person, and you assumed the photograph was about the person. So what I did was to get up early, and it was very hard. If I went into like a bodega and I said, do you mind if I photograph your store? And they would say why, and it would be $500 and get out of my face, and So I would go to a store and I could put the camera right up against the glass and keep out all the shadows, and it looked as if you were inside the store. And that was very exciting. It was, and I liked the emptiness of it because, New York is always jammed and clitter-clatter and, like that. So as I began to photograph these stores, and I knew this wasn't a destination, this is not what my life was going to be about, but it was an exercise. And they more and more began to look like stage sets to me. I became fascinated with these little environments, And I always do like that kind of artificial stage set, which we've been making movies, and I've done a number of them using that kind of thing of an artificial stage set. And at the same time, I was looking at Balthus, and my great triumvirate is Magritte Balthus and Bernard Pufnik from McKees. No, who's the third one? Oh, De Chirico, of course. How could I forget De Chirico? And I had an opportunity to photograph all of them, and that is so exciting. I remember going up, but I digress. I remember going up to Magritte's door when I located the house, and there was a little doorbell that said Magritte. And I was just so, he has a doorbell. Like the one that says God, or it's, no, it would never say God, but it would say, you know, Picasso, or, you know, it's stunning. They're, you know, they have doorbells. Wasn't that amazing? You know, I photographed the doorbell, and then I left. You know, I stayed. But I forgot I was going with that. But it's very curious about my mind, and I might introduce you to the concept of mind. Mind, like minding your own business, or mind your mind. How does your mind work? I'm very interested in that. For example, my mind, I hear 2 or 3 conversations. I don't hear voices. Not to be confused with voices, but I hear 2 and 3 spin-offs in the conversation. So if I'm talking to somebody and they say to me, I'm a little hoarse, and I know they mean, you know, they have a sore throat, and they don't mean they are a little hoarse, but I begin to literally think of Princess Anne, you know, Seabiscuit, Churchill Downs, horse meat, horse's ass, no, something like that. Anyway, and I constantly do these spin-offs. So when I began, and I do it visually. So when I saw these empty rooms, and they looked like, especially there was a room that was a barber shop, and it had the barber's jacket on the little hook. And I thought, oh, there's the barber's jacket. And I thought, oh well, this is where he comes in and he puts the jacket on and he does his barber act. Yeah, so well, we lived in the country. I do go to a barber shop, and there was this very nosy barber, and so I sat in the chair and he said something like, "You're not around here, are you? From around here?" Well, I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Oh, well, where do you live? Are you in the Gary? You know, we have the Gary. Okay, nice. What do you do?" I didn't want. I was trying to avoid. So I said, "What do you do?" "Well, I'm a salesman." If I said a photographer, you know, God knows what Pandora's box that would open. So then he said, "Oh, all right, that's interesting. Well, what do you sell?" "Men's clothes." "Oh, what brand?" It was like a sticky tar baby. You know, I didn't even know why I brought that up. That just shows you how my mind works. I did all these spin-offs constantly. So then I began to think of this barber doing his barber act, and I was simultaneously looking about this. Every time I would go to MoMA, I never go there anymore because I don't like it, but I hate the building. It's such a big factory. Anyway, so when I would go there, I always visited Balthus' street, the street painting, a very artificial street, and as a matter of fact, there's another one he did. I found the location of that street, and I photographed the street. It's right around the corner from the Odeon. I forget, Passage something. And I photographed the street, and then I painted in all the characters from his painting on the empty street. That's an aside. So I was looking at Balthus. I was looking at these etche pictures, and then I led me to the notion of peopling photographs, but making my own act to make, and it was very liberating because it's quite a drama to suddenly threw me out. It reminds me of that famous statement that Thoreau made when Thoreau was at Walden Pond. Somebody came and said to him, "Have you heard the big news? You can now send a telegram all the way from Walden Pond to from Boston to Texas." And I think this is very apropos. Thoreau said, "Yes, that's amazing, but does Boston have anything to say to Texas?" "So what are you wearing?" "Oh, I'm just getting in the subway. I don't do any of that." See, I have human-sized fingers. They have not been destroyed. So there I was. So that's why that was so liberating to me. And I'm going to read my little introduction in case you don't happen to buy the book, because I like it. I like what I wrote. Once upon a time, New York City. What grand theater, this bizarre cacophony of toots, bangs, and hurrahs. Each street is a stage set for the luck of life. Each room a backdrop for chance. We tread these boards as stars of our daily shenanigans. It's busy, frantic stuff. Listen to the banners wave above the blather of beggars and scoundrels. Ourselves for sale, everything on the shelves for sale, everything in the streets is a bargain. These flea markets and backlots are the ville as mise en scène. What a rigmarole. Next paragraph. It's not long. Photo Flander. My alarm alerts me to the dawn. I arise and perform my morning habits. Then down one flight to silent 9th Street. A vacant cab saunters slowly towards Fifth Avenue looking for a fare. I become the photo Flander. I stroll, noticing what I did not see, blinded by its familiarity. I pause. Where am I? I pause, mesmerized by my reflection in the mirror. Get that man, he's late. Get that man's name. My reflection in the mirror of a window shop window. The opera of the city is now reduced to the one note of a heartbeat, its denizens dream, the noisy crowds in repose, only a morning dove coos. I meander here and there. Noticing an empty barber shop, a barber store. I'm not going to skip over it, it's still good second time around. Noticing an empty barber shop, a white jacket on its hook, I imagine a barber donning his barber costume to perform his barber act. Eureka! Perhaps I could inhabit these venues in my own theater. I find these musing liberating. Look, a shoe shine stand waiting patiently for a customer's pair of scuffed wingtips. There is a subway car alone in its solitude, resting between trips. The storefront looks like fake Hollywood facades propped up by a filigree of wooden lattice. There is a mathematical logic in the language of street signs, movie posters, and for sale ads, 2 for 1. The sun rises higher and worshippers walk to mass. The early grumblings of the city begin yet again. Atche, lurking like a shadow, watches me from above. All the splendor. Did you see it too? And you, my dear reader, sitting there, holding my book about empty rooms in an empty New York, in an empty universe, look around, behold, before the curtain calls. You know, it's all theater. I mean, this is like, what's it called? Some kind of theater. Theater of the absurd. See, I invented something I just stole from another writer. Anyway, so that's how that all happened. And what's thrilling about, I'm 86, which I really like. I really like being 86. I'd settle for 68 or even 34, but that's another story. But what's so great about becoming 68 is that I'm still alive. I don't have cancer. I did lose my great friend Fred last year, and but we won't go there. And I'd like to make it to 90 or even 95 with luck, but I don't care. But you know what's so great? I took a lot of. Oh, you remember? You know who's from Boston? You remember? Boss Curly ran Boston. He was head of the Curly machine. He was the mayor of Boston, and my Irish saloon keeper and my sister-in-law father ran Philadelphia as the. Anyway, so one day they went to Curly and they said to him, how did it manage that you were an Irish saloon keeper and then you became the head of the Democratic machine in Boston? And he said, I seen me chances and I took them. And that's what I've always done. I seen me chances and I took them. And I haven't missed the trick. Well, a few actually. That's a private joke, probably not so private. It's about privates actually. Never mind. It reminds me of being, see, I'm doing it right now. Private joke, privates, it's about privates, meaning the, downtown. And then reminds me then of having been a private in the Army, which brings me to Trump and war. And you know what he said yesterday? He's at war with what they call it, with the, I'm full of opinions, and I get very angry when people don't have any opinions. How can you not have any opinions? How can you not be pissed? I mean, how can you not be, I don't know. Well, it's a rhetorical question. Anyway, anybody have a question for me? Anybody have
What do you like most about being 86?
That I am still 86, but I'm having an existential crisis. Write that down, you'll forget. And what that means is, I've always found life to be a novelty item. You know, it's like a curiosity. And to quote Alice, it has gotten more and more and more and more curious, to the point now that all the things that I found, I would say, what is that? All those things, there was this, let me try to rearrange all these random thoughts into one coherent sentence. All those things that I was curious about, oh, that's the big thing, is curiosity. You know, I tell students that if you leave this school asking fewer questions than when you arrived, then you didn't get an education. I am also, as I said, a novelty item, but I am more curious about every square inch of every square event, of every square moment in my life. And I've given up. There's no solution. There is no solace. And I'm a raving atheist, so of course, the idea that there is a Mr. God is... Anyway, the two things I'm going to say are, I'm really rambling, but I get paid by the word. You're counting me for good. Okay? The two things that are going to save our species. Oh, read a book called Species, the one by Harari. It's a history of our species. It's called Species, yeah.
Sapiens?
Sorry?
Sapiens?
Sapiens.
Yeah.
They're species too.
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, read that. That's a very good book. And let me think. I'm going to buy a book here. There's a new book out on Nietzsche. And who is more interesting than Nietzsche? I mean, what a, you know. Anyway, so I digress. What was I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, about existential crisis. It is written. Anyway, see, I amuse myself constantly. Not as much as when I was a young man, but that train left the station. Anyway, that's another story. Are you taking notes or not? So I don't know what happened. I do not know what happened. I didn't remember that it had happened. And right now it's happening. This is happening. So, and I'm probably going to leave saying, my last words won't be rosebud, or if this wallpaper, either this wallpaper goes or I do. See who knows what that is.
Oscar Wilde.
Ah, you win a prize. Give him a free book. Okay. So, and also, being silly is very important. I have a great capacity for ridiculosity. I'm going to invent a word. Ambiguous ridiculosity-itis, which is not curable. So you can ask me a question now, if you dare. Yes, doctor.
Did any of the work with the New York interiors feed into the sequences, like inspire some of the sequences?
No, but the principle of an empty room as not just being a place where somebody, like they do their bookstore act here, you know, and they've got the props and, you know, no, it's the idea of performance. And then I'm doing a performance now, and I have 4 stars from a porn magazine. But that's a different performance. Keep up with me, I can't keep on. Anyway, so where was I? Oh, liquid refreshments. What was the question?
Just wondering about the connection between the interiors and empty New York
not specific
and
interiors. The principle of interiors as theater.
Yeah.
You know, and it is. All of our lives are little dramas. You know, I'm an actor, and I got the lead in the Duane Michals show. And insert your name here and whatever act you're trying to pull off. I thought that was vaguely funny. Yes.
I'd love to hear how the book came to be.
Oh, well, that book.
This book.
Yeah, it was very interesting because I've had those photographs for years. I maybe published 10 or 20 of them at the most. Oh, I did use one. I did a photograph with text. It's a bar. I had photographed it up on 3rd Avenue, and I wrote a text, and it said, there are things not seen here in this photograph. And then I described the bar, going into the bar on a warm afternoon, being thirsty. And then I described seeing a roach go up the leg of the bar, listening to the jukebox playing, what's that fellow's name? Oh, Southern Nights. You know, he was very popular in the 60s.
Glenn
Southern
Campbell?
Nights. Well, yeah,
Glenn
give
Campbell?
that guy a free book, Glenn Campbell. And so I used the bar as photographers photograph spaces, but there's no sense of it it's always a black and white, two-dimensional location. But there's no sense of what actually is going on in that space, no sense of the drama. I once photographed an empty room, and I called it the room where the world ended. And it said it was on an afternoon, very much like this afternoon, that a world came to an end, and I described a woman coming home and being attacked and dying in that room. And the birds kept singing and traffic kept going down the street, and nobody had noticed that the world had come to an end. And when each one of us dies, nobody's probably going to notice except a small coterie of friends or hanger-oners or people who want their money back. You probably notice that you've left town quickly, upside down and backwards. I thought that was almost funny. I didn't answer your question.
Oh, no, I'm just interested.
Well, yes. So I did another book with Edith Harmon Press. Is a wonderful little English publisher. I don't know how that. Well, they're not surviving because this is the last book they're going to publish, and they have a bookstore, and yeah, and two guys own it. Stephen Stuart Smith, and his partner is Marco Livingstone. And Marco Livingstone is an old friend of mine. We did a number of books together, and he's an authority on David Hockney. And I did a book called The House I Once Called Home, after the aforementioned. Is that right? Aforementioned. And then he knew about this material, and I showed a few at DC Moore, and people found them very interesting. And so they said, we'd love to do this as our last book. So that was very nice. That was really lovely. So that makes me, I love books actually. I prefer books over photographs. I'm a book nut. I realize I have a book problem. And I am, really, I'm addicted to books. Here I am in a bookstore. I've got to break this habit somehow. And so then he called up and we put it together, and I was thrilled to have an opportunity. I've done books bought me or by me or whatever. I've over 33, and a lot of them were just small little books. I just love the idea of something, like when I liked writing that, I liked reading that. I think if you have any talent, you should check it out. If you think, not me, but I might like to be a tap dancer, but I'm not sure Jesus wants me to be a tap dancer. And, well, I haven't heard any miracles, so I guess I'll never be a tap dancer. Shut up, Mr. Bill. Tap your little legs off. No, if you have any instincts to be something, check it out. The worst thing is you might be lousy. The best thing, you might really be lousy, but you might really be good. But it's all, we've been making 25, we have 25 little movies now. When my Fred got sick, I started making movies, and I have a great assistant who helps me, and it got me another place to go than home. And they're wonderful. I started making movies at 83. 83, my God, shut up. I mean, it's never too late to do anything if you have the curiosity, and so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I took me chances, and I took them, and I grabbed them, and I stole them. And the other part, come on, ask me some questions.
Do you find it harder to edit and put together a book like this, where you can't go off on tangents and write?
No, yeah, I do.
historians?
As a matter of fact, I used to do everything by myself. Again, I won't say it again. But anyway, so I'm not going to waste my awful material on you. There's got to be some bummers in the crowd that know what I'm talking about some of the time. Anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh, I forgot.
Editing this and not
Oh, yes,
writing your
yes,
story
yes.
or
So I
turning
used
it
to
into a
do everything by
sequence.
myself, and then I started having a part-time assistant, which was very nice. And I prided myself, I'm a real loner. Anyway, so now I have what I call the 19th Street Players. We have 2 regulars and then 1 part-timer, and they help me. We help me edit. This I find very boring to edit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like storytelling. As you can see, my mother said my father had the gift of gab, and the only thing he left me was his gift of gab.